Some phone calls seem harmless, but they mark the beginning of a calculated betrayal. I never imagined that a single ping on my phone screen would unravel into a meticulously planned setup that sent chills down my spine. A familiar voice rang out, sweet as honey but with a blade hidden beneath. "Hey sis, I just need a little favor." I should have known the moment they didn't say exactly what the favor was, but 10 years of being the good daughter blinded me. It wasn't the first time I helped, but never had I felt so much like a walking wallet. If only I had known what they were hiding, I wouldn't have sent the money so quickly. "My name is Victoria Lane. I'm 34 years old, single, and currently the CEO of an organic food manufacturing company in Portland, Oregon. My job is so busy that I honestly can't remember the last time I went on vacation. My family lives in Seattle, and I've kept the habit of calling them on weekends, visiting occasionally, or sending some financial support to my parents, something I've done since I graduated college. One Wednesday morning, while I was reviewing reports to prepare for an investor meeting, my phone rang. It was Lily, my 27-year-old sister with 2 young kids, working part-time at a local bakery. I answered and put it on speaker while typing away. "Hey Vic, are you super busy? I have something urgent to tell you, but it's actually really exciting." I squinted at the screen and motioned to my assistant to wait outside the door. "Make it quick, I'm in the middle of work." "Okay, straight to the point. We're planning a huge surprise birthday party for Mom's 65th. Big, like extravagant. Everyone's pitching in to make it special. Are you in?" "Of course, it's Mom's birthday. I'll chip in. How much are we talking?" I replied, smiling a little, thinking it was just another family gathering like every other year. "We're thinking around 2,500 each, but if you could help a bit more, we could book an even better place. This resort is absolutely stunning." I froze. $2,500? That was more than 3 times what I'd ever spent on a vacation for myself. I frowned slightly but kept my tone light. "A resort? You mean a hotel party? Which resort?" "Don't worry, we've got it covered, just send the money to Emma, Mom's gonna be so touched." Lily dodged the question with forced enthusiasm. A flicker of doubt crossed my mind, but I got swept back into the usual routine. "All right, I'll transfer it this afternoon. Just make sure to send me the details and schedule so I can plan ahead. Oh, and take the week off if you can, okay? We'll need you around during that time." "A week? Why so long?" "You know, some prep work, cleanup, helping out a bit. Plus, you could use the break. It's been ages since you went anywhere." Something didn't sit right. A birthday party that needed a full week off? But before I could question it, Lily brushed it off with a soft laugh and hung up after I promised to send the money. I couldn't focus the rest of the day. Even with deadlines looming, something about Lily's tone felt off. But just like all the other times, I pushed the feeling aside, opened my banking app and transferred $2,800 to Emma, our 30-year-old cousin who works as a preschool teacher and typically handles family event planning. Just a few seconds. One tap. One button. And I had handed over my money and time to a plan I knew nothing about. I didn't realize that transfer was my ticket to the most polished betrayal I've ever experienced. 3 weeks after Lily's call, I drove to Seattle for a family dinner, something I once saw as a warm tradition, though this time my gut was uneasy. My parents' cream-colored wooden house looked the same. The warm glow through the windows felt fake now, like a sweet coating hiding something far more sinister. As I stepped in, the noise from kids and the laughter from the dining room hit me. The smell of herb-roasted chicken and fresh apple pie filled the air. Everyone was there. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Lane, my cousin Emma, 33, Lily and her kids, and even Aunt Jen, who rarely shows up. After a few polite greetings, I realized something was off. Everyone clearly knew something I didn't. There was this buzzing excitement in the air. Side glances exchanged like secret messages. I sat down, eyes on Lily, silently asking for an explanation. She busied herself with the mashed potatoes, avoiding me. Just as I was piecing things together, Emma suddenly put her fork down and announced proudly, It's official! We got the tickets! Mom, pack something warm. Snowy mountains, here we come. The whole table erupted in cheers. My mom gasped with joy. My dad chuckled, already talking about ski rentals. Rachel showed off a resort catalog, and Emma went on about spas, hot springs, and cabins with fireplaces in the pines. I sat frozen. Wait, what resort? What's going on? I asked, trying to stay calm, but my voice trembled. The table fell dead silent. The laughter, the clinking cutlery, gone. My mom gently set down her glass, then turned to me with the syrupy tone I've always hated. Honey, we mean, all of us are spending a week at Silver Pines Mountain Lodge for Mom's birthday. I stared at them all. You booked the tickets, the resort, without telling me? Lily shrugged. We figured you already knew. I mean, you did send the money, right? I sat speechless. And I'm coming too? Lily laughed like I had said something ridiculous. Well, actually, we were hoping you could help with something small while we're there. My eyes narrowed. What exactly? Emma cut in, voice sweet as syrup but sharp as glass. Watch the kids. Just for the week. You know Lily's got Gracie, I've got the twins, Ethan and Ellie, Rachel has Jimmy. You love the kids, right? I went numb. You're kidding me. The whole family goes on vacation, and I'm invited as the babysitter? No one answered. No one laughed. Only expectant eyes stared at me, as if saying no was unimaginable. My mother spoke as if bestowing an honor. The kids adore you, Victoria. They always ask about you. You know I don't trust just anyone to watch them. And I don't deserve a break? I snapped, voice like a blade. I work too. I'm exhausted. Why does no one ever think maybe I also deserve a vacation? Lily smirked and tossed me a pitying glance. You don't even have a family. Just a job. Taking time off would just mean sitting alone in that boring high-rise apartment anyway. I nearly jumped up from my chair. Is that what you think I am, a single childless woman who only exists to serve others? I looked around the table, searching for even one understanding glance. There wasn't any. Only averted gazes, like I had just ruined a perfectly good evening. Emma placed her hand on the table, tilted her head, her voice softening in a way that only made me angrier. Victoria, don't make this a big deal. Mom only turned 65 once. We're all incredibly busy. This is the only time the whole family can relax. Can't you help us just this one last time? One last time? Which last time are we talking about? My voice went cold. The time I skipped my summer break to stay home with Lily's feverish kid? Or when I canceled a business trip to help Emma after Ethan broke his arm? Or the dozens of weekends I gave up living my own life? The entire table went silent. This time, really silent. No one argued. No one apologized. They just stared at me like I was the selfish one. I pushed my chair back, stood up, heart pounding. Not a shadow. I'm not your free babysitter. And I'm not a walking bank either. I turned and walked out of the house. What was once called home now felt like a stage where I no longer had a role to play. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, low and weary, like she was used to me always coming back. She's just upset, she always comes back, she always does. But this time, I didn't. And they had no idea they had just shattered something that could never be repaired. I left my parents' house feeling like someone had thrown a bucket of ice water straight into my face. No one came after me. No one tried to stop me. The door closed behind me like a period on a sentence no one wanted to admit had been written. The Seattle night was freezing, sharp gusts of wind slipping down my collar. But I didn't bother to pull it up. My heart felt frozen. Not from the cold, but from the words I had just heard from my own family. You don't have a family. Taking time off would just mean lying alone in your boring high-rise apartment. Mom only trusts you to watch the kids, not strangers. Each word stabbed like a knife. And what hurt the most was that I was used to it. So used to it that I could no longer tell the difference between love and manipulation disguised as care. I drove back to my apartment in silence. No music, no radio. Just the wind howling outside and the dull hum of the engine, echoing like the slow rhythm of my heartbeat, drifting into emptiness. My apartment on the 18th floor in Portland greeted me with absolute silence. No crying kids. No one calling my name. No expectant looks waiting for me. For the first time, I realized that this quiet had been used by my family as a reason to belittle my life. I sat down on the sofa, still wearing my watch, eyes blankly staring out the window where city lights shimmered like floating fragments. Below, the cars kept moving as if nothing had happened. But inside me a tidal wave was building. I used to be proud of being the one everyone could rely on. The responsible big sister. The daughter who always shows up. The woman who sacrifices for family. I once thought that was trust, love, connection. But tonight, for the first time, I realized. They didn't choose me because they loved me. They chose me because I always said yes. Because I never said no. I closed my eyes, and like a reflex, memories came flooding back. Painfully clear. I was 20, just starting my internship at a food company. Lily had just had her first baby. I canceled my first ever trip with friends, just to watch baby Gracie so Lily could go grocery shopping. No one thanked me. Just a quick, "You're free anyway, we're swamped." At 26, while preparing a presentation for the company board, Rachel called. "Jimmy has a high fever, we need to take him to the ER, can you house sit?" I stayed up all night to finish my slides. But they didn't remember that. All they remembered was, "Victoria is the best unpaid house sitter ever." At 31 I hit my first six-figure salary. I was thrilled and wanted to call Mom to share, but as soon as I started talking she cut me off. "I'm exhausted. Jimmy just threw up and the smell's still lingering. Tell me later, okay?" That's when I learned. To them, I was always the available one, because I didn't have a husband, or kids. No excuse valid enough to say no. A surge of rage rose in my throat. I stood up, opened my bookshelf, and pulled out old photo albums. Family pictures I always took from behind the camera. I was barely in any of them. Holidays, Christmases, Thanksgivings. In the photos, I was a blurry shadow in the background, or the one carrying plates, or calming a crying child. No one took pictures of me. No one asked if I was happy. No one noticed I took the last bus home while everyone toasted by the fireplace. I grabbed my phone, opened my messages, scrolled back through time. "Vic, can you watch the kids tonight? I have to work last minute." Lily. "Hey, our power's out, the kids are scared, can we crash at your place?" Emma. "Can you pick Jimmy up for me? I'm stuck." Rachel. I started typing a scathing reply, but then deleted it. I didn't need to lash out. I needed the truth. And the truth was, I only mattered when I did things for them. They didn't know how many promotions I turned down to stay close. How much money I poured into Emma's tuition when she lost her job. That I once dreamed of having a family, but buried that dream, exhausted by endless, nameless responsibilities. I had punished myself for years, thinking I was selfish if I ever said no. But tonight, when I heard the words, "You don't even have a family to need a vacation," it hit me like a hammer. I wasn't selfish, I was human, a human with limits. And I had finally reached mine. I stood up and closed my heart to the noise from my family, not because I didn't love them, but because I had to learn to love myself first. The next morning I woke up with an unfamiliar sense of clarity. No more confusion. No more guilt gnawing at me every time I thought of saying no. This time, I would do it the mature, clear, respectful way. The way I always believed families should treat one another. I brewed a black coffee, opened my laptop, and started searching. In under an hour, I had contacted 3 professional childcare companies in Seattle. All had certified staff, background checks, even liability insurance and resort nanny services. I reviewed each profile. One stood out. Marissa, 29, a graduate in early childhood education, with 7 years of experience. She had previously worked at Yellowstone Resort, caring for children from large family groups. I picked her immediately. The weekly fee was $1,400. Cheap, compared to the money I had already sent that ungrateful bunch. I picked up the phone and dialed my mom. She answered on the third ring. "Victoria?" Her voice was as gentle as ever, but I could sense hesitation, like she knew this wasn't just a casual weather check call. I took a deep breath. "Mom, I've made my decision. I won't be watching the kids on vacation. But I've hired someone. A certified nanny with a clean background. I'm willing to pay the full cost." The line went quiet for 3 seconds. I counted every heartbeat. "Victoria!" Her voice dropped low, like she was speaking to a child who had just made a foolish mistake. "You know I can't relax letting a stranger watch my grandkids. They're used to you. They love you. I can't hand them over to someone who's not family. But you can't keep expecting me to sacrifice over and over just because I don't have a family of my own to use as an excuse." My voice lost its softness. It came out tight. Each word like a compressed bullet. "You're overreacting. I'm just setting boundaries." I didn't even get to say more. She hung up. That cold click rang in my ears like a trapdoor slamming shut. Not even 2 minutes later my phone rang again. It was Lily. I still picked up. I still had patience. "What do you mean hiring a nanny? Are you trying to ruin the whole trip?" "I'm just finding a solution. A fair one, so everyone gets to relax, including me." "Fair? Don't throw that word around, Vic. You never understood what family even means. You've lived alone for too long. Guess you've gotten used to being selfish. Haven't you?" My heart ached. But I kept my voice steady. Selfish is expecting someone else to sacrifice without ever asking if they agree. Lily scoffed on the other end. "If you wanted to say no, just say it. Don't pretend to be righteous. Don't fake kindness when you're really just dodging responsibility. I have no obligation to carry burdens that others created. You've never been a mother, so you don't understand. But the kids need you, Mom needs you, the whole family needs you, and all you think about is yourself. You're such a disappointment." She hung up. I sat frozen, fingers clenched around the phone. "You're such a disappointment." A phrase I once feared the most, and now, hearing it, it didn't hurt the way I thought it would. I felt relieved. Because finally the mask had come off. That night, I got a message from Emma. Short, but ice cold. "If you didn't want to help, fine. But don't act like you're noble just because you threw money at us and called it done. That's not how family works." I stared at the screen. Family. That word used to mean warm dinners, comforting hugs, sharing and understanding. But now family meant demands, secret arrangements. It meant I was assigned the role of sacrificer. And when I dared to say no, I became the villain. I put the phone down and opened the window. The night wind rushed in, carrying the scent of smoke and cold air. The city still sparkled like tiny fires. Each light, a family, a life. A choice. I thought about their upcoming vacation. They'd load the suitcases, zip up their coats, laugh together, believing everything was set. Believing Victoria will manage like she always does. But this time, they'll stand at my door, and no one will answer. The next afternoon I was in a meeting with the HR team when my phone started vibrating non-stop. Lily's name flashed on the screen 4 times in a row. I silenced it, trying to focus, but deep down, I knew a storm was coming. And I wasn't wrong. Less than 2 minutes after leaving the meeting room, the phone rang for the 5th time. This time it was Emma. I declined. Then came a text. "Mom's been crying all morning. Are you proud of yourself?" Before I could respond, Lily called again, and this time I answered. "Victoria, who do you think you are?" She screamed before I could even speak. I winced, walked out of the hallway and into the cold air outside. "Lily, if you want to have a conversation, lower your voice. If you just want to vent, I'm hanging up. You just ruined the entire family vacation and you want calm?" Do you know how much we've had to redo? Everyone's freaking out. Do you even have a heart? I gripped the phone tighter, trying to keep my breathing even. I didn't ruin anything. I just refused to be forced into being the babysitter, and I offered a perfectly reasonable alternative. Not everyone has as much free time as you. We have husbands, kids, lives. You wouldn't understand. You live alone, you never have to think about anyone else. I bit my lip, blood rushing to my head. So, for the past 10 years, when I helped you, babysitting, lending money, canceling my own plans, was that not thinking about others? Lily laughed bitterly, her tone dripping with disdain. That was your duty. You're the oldest. You have no strings attached. You think we wanted to ask you? I almost laughed. She had just called my sacrifices a duty, as if I were a public utility, something to be used when convenient. If you call exploitation a duty, then I guess I'd been wrong to stay silent for so long. I hung up, boiling inside, but before I could even exhale, my phone lit up again, a barrage of messages like rapid fire. Emma, you once said you always put family first. You've gone back on your word. Rachel, remember last year when I watered your plants for a week? I never brought it up. Now you refuse to watch a few kids and just walk away like nothing happened. Aunt Jen, you've really hurt your mom. The whole family is disappointed in you. I read each line as if someone was squeezing my chest. The people I once thought were closest to me were now lining up to guilt trip me, twist the facts, and drag me down. I'm not ungrateful, but they've turned my kindness into a tool for control. The more I read, the clearer it became. They never saw me as an equal. They only cared when I was useful, when I was well-behaved, tolerant, and understanding, by their definition. The final message came from Mom. It wasn't long, but it was colder than the snow outside the window. I'm truly disappointed. You were always my pride. But this time, you've brought me shame. I collapsed onto the kitchen chair, the phone slipping from my hand like a foreign object. I brought her shame. Because I refused to be used. I looked up at the family photo on the wall. The one taken at Mom's 60th birthday. I was at the very end, adjusting Ethan's collar. Emma's son, who was 3 at the time. While everyone else was smiling brightly, I had my head down, nearly hidden behind Dad's frame. That photo perfectly captured my role in this family. Always in the back. Always the backdrop. Always taken for granted. I got up, walked straight into the bedroom and opened the closet. I pulled my suitcase from the shelf and quietly began to pack. No announcement, no warning, no note left behind. I was done explaining myself to people who only listen when you say what they want to hear. This time they'll have to face the reality. I no longer belonged to the role they assigned me. And I had never been more certain than I was in that moment. If self-respect came with a price, then silence was the most powerful form of resistance. That night, I booked a flight to Florida in just 6 minutes. No second thoughts, no asking permission, no explaining. 1 week of vacation at a beachfront resort in Clearwater, an ocean view room with a private balcony and full-service spa. I even chose first class. Something I hadn't done for myself in over 10 years. When the confirmation email arrived, I stared at the screen in disbelief. I had actually done it. I had chosen myself. Not to be a placeholder in yet another one of my family's plans. I cleaned my apartment like always, spotless, leaving no trace for anyone who might try to show up unannounced. I locked all the windows, unplugged every electronic device, took out the trash, scrubbed every glass in the sink. No notes, no whiteboard with babysitting instructions. No meal schedules, no toys, no extra pillows. Just a quiet, empty home, securely locked. And me, walking away from it, as if walking out of the past. The next morning I took a cab to the airport. My small suitcase rattled against the pavement as I wore a flowy maxi dress, wide-brimmed hat, and sunglasses. Your classic, tourist escaping real life look. I didn't tell anyone in the family. Didn't answer a single call on the way to the airport. I turned off my phone as the plane took off, and for the first time in my life, I felt such relief, it nearly brought me to tears. No crying kids. No one calling my name for help. No toxic messages filled with blame. Just the wind brushing past the wings and a glass of white wine offered by a smiling flight attendant. I landed in Florida under the soft midday sun. Not humid, not suffocating. Just the salty ocean breeze soaking into my skin. The taxi drove me straight to the beachfront resort, where white sand stretched endlessly, and waves rolled in a calm, rhythmic lullaby. My room was on the 4th floor, balcony facing the sea, with a lounge chair waiting for a woman who had just broken free from the invisible chains she once mistook for love. I walked in, dropped my suitcase, and flung open the balcony doors. I wanted to shout to the ocean, "I'm not anyone's puppet anymore." That first evening, I dined at a restaurant right on the sand. I ordered grilled lobster, a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and lemon mousse. I ate slowly, not because I was waiting on someone or had to rush home to a crying child. I was simply savoring me. Meanwhile, nearly 2,000 miles away, a very different scene was unfolding in front of my Portland apartment. At exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, as scheduled, though I had never been informed, Rachel, Lily, and Emma arrived one by one, each with luggage and children in tow. 5 kids under the age of 8 wailed from exhaustion after being up early and crammed into cars. Lily rang the bell, non-stop. Emma pounded the door like she meant to shatter the glass. Rachel started calling. 3 times, 5, then 8. No one answered. Messages followed. Lily, Victoria, I'm at your door. Are you going to open? Emma, the kids are getting cranky. If Mom finds out you overslept, you're dead. Rachel, is this some kind of joke? Call me back now. A few minutes later. Lily, you're not home? Where are you? Emma, you said not babysitting, not vanishing. Rachel, oh my God, don't tell me you actually went somewhere. We already booked everything. And then the true panic set in. Emma, Lily's crying. Jimmy just threw up. Ellie wants to go home. Ethan keeps asking for Aunt Vic. Rachel, what you're doing is cruel. No one treats family like this. Lily, Mom's freaking out. She can't reach you. Where are you? I didn't read those messages at the time. I was soaking in an infinity pool, cocktail in hand, jazz playing in my headphones. I laughed out loud at the image of all of them standing on the sidewalk, bags in hand, panicked because their default helper was nowhere to be found. It wasn't cruelty. It was the first time they had to confront a world without me. No Victoria to carry the burden. No Victoria to be the emotional cushion. No Victoria to clean up the mess they created. That night, I watched the sun dip into the horizon. Brilliant orange streaks lighting up the ocean. I sat alone, but I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need anyone's permission to live by my own worth. I returned to Portland after a radiant week in Florida, sun-kissed and filled with a sense of freedom I'd never dared to imagine before. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Clean, quiet, and above all, mine. I didn't turn on my phone right away. I wanted to hold on to that peace just a little longer. At least until I unpacked. But that peace didn't last 20 minutes. A furious banging shook the door, each thud like a threat. I hadn't even made it to the hallway when I heard the lock turning. The door flew open. My mother, Helen Lane, marched in first, face flushed, followed by Lily and Emma, all three like a violent storm, searching for something to destroy. "Do you have any idea what the hell you did, Victoria?" Mom yelled before even noticing me standing frozen in the living room. I turned and asked coldly, "Did you just use the emergency key? You drove this whole family insane for an entire week. No calls, no answer, no door open. You left those kids out in the cold with bags and no warning." Emma stepped forward, pointing straight at me. "You ruined Mom's vacation, you disappeared without a word, and I had to deal with 5 kids." Lily broke out in stress rashes. Lily lunged forward, eyes burning. "Do you know how much we prepared? We booked tickets, packed everything, and what did you do? Vanish. Everything fell apart. Mike and John both bailed and I had to stay and watch the kids when I'm the one who needed a break. I stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, face unreadable. They screamed like I was a criminal, like I had betrayed the nation. They didn't know, or refused to admit, that all I did was refuse to be exploited. And how many times before that did I sacrifice so you could rest? How many times did I cancel plans and take on responsibilities no one asked me if I agreed to? But you used to do it happily, Emma shot back. You used to say family is everything. I used to believe that, until I realized family only meant me serving while all of you gave the orders. My mother stepped up close, her eyes red. You made me cry. You disappointed me, Victoria. I looked straight into her eyes. You're disappointed because I dared to live for myself? Because I'm no longer a robot that says yes to everything? Then for the first time in my life, I'm proud to disappoint you. The air in the room turned to ice. Lily's jaw dropped. Emma clenched her fists. None of them could believe that I, the one who always kept silent, had just pushed back. I went on, voice steady. You're not mad because I disappeared. You're mad because I didn't follow the script. Because I didn't obediently sacrifice. You're not mad because I lacked responsibility. You're mad because I'm no longer your shared property. You talk like we've never done anything for you. Lily screamed. Remember who took you to the ER that year? Who helped you move? Yes, a few times, but have I ever not repaid you tenfold? When I lent you money to buy a car? When I watched your kids for a month so you could go back to school? When I paid Emma's tuition while she was unemployed? Or when I moved back into mom and dad's for 3 months just to take care of mom after surgery? How many of those do you even remember? The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. No one had an answer. No one could look me in the eye. I walked over, pulled the emergency key from the drawer, the one my mother used to keep, and held it up in front of her. From now on, this is no longer an open house. If you want to come in, knock. If you want to blame me, learn to listen first. And if you want to use someone, find someone else. My mother didn't take the key. She just looked at me. For the first time, not with disappointment, but shock. As if she were seeing a stranger. Emma pulled on her arm, Lily stepped back. All three walked out the door without another word, leaving behind a heavy, echoing silence. I shut the door, leaned against it and exhaled. For the first time in my life, I didn't apologize after an argument. For the first time, I didn't cry. For the first time, I knew I had chosen right. I chose myself. 1 week after the day my mom and sisters barged into my home like they were catching a traitor in the act, I took the simplest, yet most quietly explosive action. I left the family group chat. No announcement. No explanation. No anger. Just a quiet exit from a space filled with demands, blame, and orders disguised as love. The moment I pressed leave group, I let out a breath like I had just unshackled years of chains. My phone was quieter than it had ever been. No more texts like, "Are you free, sis? Can you help me with this?" Or, "Mom says call her back now." My little apartment returned to being what it was meant to be. Peace. I hung a sign above my desk. I wasn't born to be the emergency brake in someone else's life. I started rebuilding my life from the smallest things. First, a cute tea mug with the word mine on it. I placed it on the kitchen shelf, only used it when I sat down to read in the morning. No one else could touch it. No more lipstick-stained cups left by uninvited guests helping themselves to my coffee. Then, I signed up for a book club at the corner cafe, one I'd passed by hundreds of times but never entered because I was babysitting for my sister, Mom needed me to come home, or Rachel asked me to house sit again. The first meeting was on a sunny Saturday morning. I arrived early, picked a seat by the window, ordered a latte and a croissant. No one knew me as the oldest sister. No one brought up Mom's birthday. No one asked, "So, when are you getting married?" Just people who loved books, silence, and personal space. And I felt at home. A week later, I got a promo email from a travel agency. Spring in Europe, 14 days. Paris, Florence, Vienna. Without thinking, I booked it. I didn't forward the itinerary to the family email. Didn't ask if anyone needed me to stay. Didn't check if it clashed with any child's birthday. I looked in the mirror and said, I no longer live on standby. From now on, I follow my calendar. Each night, I came home and cooked for myself. Not for anyone else, not because someone asked me to, but because I wanted to care for myself the way I used to care for a family that never returned the favor. I learned to say no, a short word I once spent years avoiding. One time, Emma texted me privately, no apology, just, the kids keep asking about Aunt Vic. If you miss them, maybe you can video call? I stared at the message for 10 minutes, then I typed, I miss the kids. But I don't miss being treated like free childcare. No one replied. And I didn't wait. One afternoon in early April, while sipping tea on my balcony, I came across a Facebook post from Lily. Family is where you're always welcome, unless you refuse to sacrifice. It had dozens of sympathetic comments beneath it. I smiled. No bitterness. No resentment. Because now I understood. I didn't need to justify myself to people who had already cast me as the villain, simply for choosing myself. Compassion doesn't mean letting people walk all over your boundaries. And love is never about obligation. On a breezy evening, I wrote a letter. Never sent, just a way to release everything I'd held in for so long. Old Victoria lived to be accepted. New Victoria lives to be herself. If one day family truly wants to understand me, they'll have to knock. And this time, I will hold the key. I folded the letter and tucked it into the drawer right next to my plane ticket to Paris. A new life was beginning. No one pulling strings behind the scenes. No more burden. Just me, a 34-year-old woman, finally drawing the line. And holding it with everything she has. Victoria's story is a powerful reminder that kindness is not an obligation, and family ties shouldn't come at the cost of your self-worth. In real life, many, especially women, find themselves stuck in roles of silent sacrifice, afraid of being labeled selfish. But self-respect is not ingratitude, and setting boundaries is one of the deepest forms of self-love. At some point we must choose. Keep being the shadow, or step into the light, and own our lives. What do you think about Victoria's decision? Was she too harsh, or was it long overdue? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt family stories.